Yo, what's up guys? Welcome back to another video on the Gooners and Gloves Podcast channel. In today's video, it's going to be the 109th Gooners and Gloves Podcast, and I'm going to be giving you guys my thoughts and reactions to Arsenal officially announcing the signing of Piero Hincapié. He's just signed. It's been a very crazy transfer window, a very good transfer window, and the transfer window is rounded off with the signing of Piero Hincapié from Bayer Leverkusen. Currently, it's a loan, although it is expected to be made permanent in a year. Reports do seem to vary on whether it's obligation or option to buy, but in either case it is expected generally that Piero Hincapié will sign officially permanently as an Arsenal player next year, but for the time being he is on loan from Bayer Leverkusen. So it's been a very exciting transfer window for Arsenal, a really good debut season from Andrea Berta, and they round it off with the signing of Piero Hincapié. Today is actually still deadline day when I'm recording this, although of course the deadline has passed, and it's been a crazy day. The amount of signings, the amount of here we goes that have happened today has been absolutely mental. It's been really fun to keep up with, but Arsenal have now announced Piero Hincapié. So as usual, as I've done with all of the other signings that I've welcomed onto the channel, I'm just going to give you guys my thoughts on the signing, what I think he brings to the team, and also I do plan on potentially making a video about our transfer window as a whole, probably in a couple of days time, reflecting on the entire transfer window, what I think of it, etc. So do look forward to that if I go ahead with it, but for the time being, let's go ahead and talk about Piero Hincapié. So Piero Hincapié is a centre-back who can also play as a left-back. He's coming from Bayer Leverkusen, was a very integral part of Bayer Leverkusen, even and that's also referring to the nearly invincible season from Bayer Leverkusen, of course, the season where they only had a single loss in the Europa League final to Atalanta. Piero Hincapié was a very key part of that season, and in general has been a really integral part of Bayer Leverkusen for the last few years. He's also quite experienced in the international front, having had, I think, 46 caps for Ecuador, so a very experienced player at only 23 years old. Loads of experience in the likes of Argentina, Germany, you know, the Bundesliga, the Argentinian division, obviously the Ecuadorian national team. So loads and loads of experience, even captained the under-17s for Ecuador, so very experienced player, and he certainly brings a lot to the team. Of course, this is to replace Jakub Kiwior. Jakub Kiwior has departed Arsenal off to Porto on a season-long loan. Also, just like this one, it is a loan with obligation to buy, so it is expected that Porto will buy Jakub Kiwior permanently next summer for around 25 million euros. So as a result of Jakub Kiwior departing, of course, we have replaced him with Piero Hincapié, someone who can play both left-back and centre-back, specifically left centre-back. Obviously going to be really good cover for Gabriel and Calafiori, so I think a very solid signing in the sense of depth. Obviously we do need the depth, and we know that Mikel Arteta loves left-back, so yeah, but Piero Hincapié, someone who is quite attacking, very good attacking output, and certainly has a solid defensive work rate as well. Very good work rate, very good engine, and I think he's someone that just adds a good amount of depth to the squad. So yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see what he brings to the team. I think it's an exciting signing. Obviously, he's someone who, you know, has consistently been one of the best defenders in Germany for a while now, and just in general, a very good defensive prospect. Obviously, Arsenal have, you know, definitely the best defense in the Premier League. I have no doubt that they have the best. In my personal opinion, it's the best in the world, but I would definitely argue that at least in the Premier League, Arsenal have the best defense. So obviously, adding a very experienced player like Piero Hincapié to that defense is really good. Obviously, what makes this even better is that we did actually hijack the deal from Tottenham, so it's 2 deals that we've hijacked from Tottenham within the span of a week. So obviously it's a really good feeling that Tottenham wanted him and we came in and he came to us. But also it's clear that Piero Hincapié wanted to join us. As soon as he found out that we were in for him, he immediately made it clear to Bayer Leverkusen, I want to join Arsenal, please be reasonable. He even said to them, please be reasonable with the fee, I really want to join Arsenal, this is a great move for me, and I'm very happy that it has happened on a season-long loan. So yeah, as I said before, I think he's got really good defense, obviously very good defensively, so he could definitely cover for centre-back for Gabriel, and it's really good because obviously, you know, Gabriel is such an important member of the squad, he's such a fantastic defender, and Jakub Kiwior was a very capable backup to him, but obviously Jakub Kiwior wanted more minutes, he wanted to leave the Premier League, and obviously he more than deserves to be a starter. Like, I completely agree with Kiwior, he more than deserves to be a starter. He proved last season how good he is, and he's absolutely fantastic, and obviously I'm sure he's got the World Cup on his mind as well with Poland, and he's obviously going to want to make that team. So I think Porto is an absolutely perfect move for him. It's a slightly easier league than the Premier League. Obviously he's got that Premier League experience, and he's going to a league that's slightly easier than the Premier League, so it's obviously going to be really good for him on that front. Obviously Porto themselves have always been a solid defense. Like, Porto has always been a team that's been very solid defensively, so I think it makes sense for him to join that defense, and I think he's going to be someone who's going to be really good for Porto, and I'm wishing him all the best. Massive fan of Kiwior, always have been, always a consummate professional, always gave it his all every time he was called upon, so massive shout out to Jakub Kiwior, farewell to him. him, a brilliant player. We've also had a few other outgoings today. Obviously, Fabio Vieira, Sambi Lokonga. They've also gone Reece Nelson off to Brentford, Sambi Lokonga off to Hamburger, Fabio Vieira also off to Hamburger. So definitely a farewell to all of them. End of the day, they were all always consummate professionals. Obviously, not all of them are gone. With Fabio Vieira, it's a loan with an option to buy. With Sambi Lokonga, it's an actual outright permanent deal, and with Reece Nelson it's also an option to buy. So yeah, but in any case, best of luck to all of them. End of the day, they were all always consummate professionals and always did their job, so shout out to them. But anyway, back on the topic of Hincapie. So the fact that we've signed someone who can play left back, and the fact that Calafiori has been starting every game as left back, and Lewis Skelly hasn't really had a sniff at left back, it implies to me that Arsenal are maybe looking to turn Lewis Skelly into a midfielder. Now, is that going to be a CDM, or is that going to be a left 8, a right 8? We don't really know. However, I think it's quite clear that Arsenal probably do have the vision of turning Lewis Skelly into a midfielder. Obviously, Calafiori has been exclusively starting the games this season at left back. Lewis Skelly's only really been coming off the bench, and of course that's also just because Calafiori has been playing really well. But I do also think, based on the fact that Lewis Skelly hasn't really been starting, didn't really get too many minutes in pre-season, and obviously Hincapie has now joined, I do believe that Arsenal's long-term vision is to turn Lewis Skelly into a midfielder, whether that be a CDM or an attacking 8. I'm not fully sure, but in my personal opinion, that's what Arsenal are probably looking to do with Lewis Skelly, hence why they knew that they've got Calafiori. But obviously Calafiori, as much as he's very good, and as we've seen, he's an absolutely quality left back, obviously he does have his injury concerns. Piero Hincapié is someone who, fingers crossed, won't be injured too much. Obviously Hincapie is someone who's got quite a good injury record, has consistently been playing 90 minutes, for quite a long time, has consistently been available and fit, so fingers crossed that remains the case. We really don't want him to come to Arsenal and start getting injured, because he's someone who actually has a good injury record. But yeah, I just think he's going to add a lot of strength to the squad. I think he's a very solid attacking, I think he's very good from an attacking perspective. So if we ever want to play him left back, obviously if we have a game where we need a bit more dynamism, a bit more creativity, Hincapie certainly has that. He can definitely get forward, he can definitely put crosses in, create chances, but also he's someone who's very defensively solid, wins a lot of his duels both in the air and on the ground. So that's where the centre-back element of it comes in. Obviously it's good that we've now got a Gabriel backup. Before we had Jakub Kiwior, but Jakub Kiwior, as mentioned before, wanted to move on for more minutes, and obviously we had to respect that. But at the same time, as Bert has always said, he always wants to ensure that everybody who goes out has an immediate replacement, and that's what Hincapie is for Jakub Kiwior. Obviously Hincapie is still very young, only 23 years old, so the sky is certainly the limit for him. Very, very experienced player, and as we've seen, these sorts of signings do pay off. As we saw with Christian Mosquera yesterday, he was absolutely fantastic against Liverpool, stepped in when Saliba was injured, and he was brilliant. He was so good against Liverpool, and hopefully Hincapie will be able to give us those same sorts of performances if he ever has to step in for Gabriel. But yeah, it's a very solid signing. It's the end of a very, very good window for Arsenal. A very, very good debut season from Andrea Berta. It's a very good way to end it off. But yeah, Hincapie can play left back, can play centre back, can cover for Gabriel, can cover for Calafiori, can bomb up and down, can create chances, can, sit a bit more deep. He's just a very well-rounded player in terms of, he can sit deep, he can create chances, he can get forward, he can, create, he can make things happen, he can bomb up and down. He's just a very, very versatile player who I think will add a lot to the squad. As mentioned before, playing for that invincible Bayer Leverkusen team has certainly helped him, has certainly done him the world of good as well. Not only that, but obviously playing for Ecuador, we know that, football in South America is really, really hard. Obviously, South American football has so much talent and so much good quality. So obviously playing for Ecuador and coming up against those sorts of tough teams, Argentina, Colombia, Brazil, etc., that's going to have done him the world of good as well. So all in all, a highly experienced 23-year-old left back, centre back hybrid who is joining us on loan. Currently, I'm not sure if it's with an option or with obligation. Reports do seem to vary, but in either case, it is expected that Hincapie will join us permanently next season for a fee of, I'm not actually too sure what the fee is. I think it's around 40-something million pounds. So, definitely quite high, but obviously we'll see if he repays it. But in any case, that's going to go on and do it for this video. Thank you guys so much for listening. All in all, a very good transfer window from Arsenal, and we end it off in a very solid fashion with Piero Hincapié joining. So yeah, looking forward to seeing what Piero Hincapié does. Obviously now he's going to be off to Ecuador for international duty, so we're going to have to wait till he gets his debut, and obviously we'll have to see where he slots into the squad, how he's going to be deployed. Will he be used in the Champions League more? Will he be used in the Premier League? Is he going to be used in sort of the easier competitions like Carabao Cup and FA Cup? I don't know, but really looking forward to seeing his debut. So all in all, please let me know down below what you think of Arsenal's transfer window. As I said before, I likely will be making a separate video talking about the whole transfer window and what I think, how much money we've spent, what the outgoings were, the contract extensions, etc. But for the time being, I'm going to go on and leave this video here. Thank you guys so much for listening. All in all, a solid signing for Hincapie, someone who's very versatile, can play left back and centre back, can get up and down, can create chances, can sit deep, can defend, can score. anything you really want. A very solid signing, very experienced from Ecuador and Bayer Leverkusen. But anyway, thank you guys so much for listening. Have a great day. Please let me know down below what you think of the Piero Hincapié signing, and I'll see you guys, and I'll catch you guys on another podcast soon. Bye bye.